Hey everybody, what's up? It's your friend James Shaw. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. I'm glad that you did. We're going to do something a little bit different. Most times we get together, we're interviewing a real estate agent about some strategy they're using or some way they're pumping their pipeline full of leads or how they're investing in their community and doing all these things. But today I want to invest in you. I want to invest in you because we need to invest in us, and we need to make sure we're building habits that move us forward. And it's October when we're recording this, and you might not be watching in October. It's October, which this enters a season that gets really busy and a lot going on, and yet it also enters this time that people might look at decisions and make different ones about certain habits in their life. In October, there's a thing, it's all out there all over the world, called Sober October, where people go, I'm going to make a decision to step away from alcohol for a month as a challenge to see if I can do it and what that might do for me. And in fact, I mean, it's really quite in vogue right now to take a look at your relationship with alcohol and remove it from your life. And I want to walk through some of that because maybe some of you are looking to make the same decision and it might be a little tougher than you think. And so we've got my friend Meg Daday with this, because Meg, this is a decision you made now, coming up on 2 years, and it's had a big change for you. So I wanted you to walk through it. And then we're going to talk about some options available to those of you inside our Keller Williams world through KW Clarity, that's part of KW Wellness, to help you see, again, if this is something you'd like to do, some ways to do it and hang out with others who are doing the same. But Meg, thank you for coming on to share your story. Will you real quickly introduce yourself to everyone, tell them who you are and where you are and a little bit about you?
Yeah, I'm Meg Daday. I'm an agent based in downtown Chicago. I was going to say individual agent, but I'm no longer an individual right now. I have a team that I started back in January, and have become super passionate about this topic. So I'm excited to be here.
I'm glad you are, and thank you for taking up our invitation to be able to talk about it. I believe inside of Pivot and Inspire, which you're members of both, that we are supporting the whole person, not just the real estate person. And we work in a business that is just, alcohol is such a part of it. It's part of, we host client events and we probably serve alcohol at them. We go to networking events and there's probably alcohol available at those things. We go to conferences and events and there's alcohol available at that. You come home from a long day of work and you joke on your social media, it was a long day today, and someone says, well, go have a glass of wine and relax. It's such a part of our culture. And yet you decided and went and looked at it and said, it's not going to be a part of your culture anymore. Tell us how you got there, Meg.
Yeah, there was really no rock bottom moment. If I had a rock bottom with alcohol, it was in 2014, and I didn't stop drinking for another 8 years after that. So it was kind of a long road, but I don't think that I thought that my drinking or kind of like bad habit with wine was that different from most of the people around me. I did exactly what you said. I would come home from a day of showings or just be out with friends and have, if I was home alone, have a couple glasses of wine, and all of a sudden it was midnight and I was watching reruns of Friends, like totally unnecessary. If I was out with friends, I felt like I was pretty much on par with what everyone else was doing. Maybe I would have 1 or 2 extra glasses of wine than everyone else, but then I would come home and turn on the TV and pour myself another. So um, it really was, I thought what everyone was doing. But then when I got to Keller Williams in 2018, I really dove into kind of like the personal development culture of the company. My first day at Keller Williams, someone told me, this company will change your life if you let it. And I think because I've like ingrained myself so much in the culture, it really has. And then in May 2019, I've talked about this accountability group that John Schumacher started in our office. It was all based on the one thing, and he walked us through the 7 circles and through goal setting to the now, all the way down to us meeting weekly to talk about what our goals were for the week. And I had, at the time, 2 main goals, which were to get out of debt, which I didn't tell anyone in the group about because I was so embarrassed. And what I did talk about was getting in the best shape of my life before my 40th birthday, which was April of 2020. And I would say every week to the group, like, I'm going to eat clean and drink clean for 4 days a week. And that just really didn't work for me. Like, kind of the idea of moderation, or just some days trying to stick to it and other days not. So I had this kind of years long cycle of either creating a diet like or, trying to commit to a diet like Whole30 that didn't involve alcohol, or just trying to, only drink Thursday through Sunday, or whatever kind of like rules I was trying to set in place for myself. So, fast forward to 2022, I had been coaching with Jordan Freed for about a year at that point. And our last call in December 2022, our last call for that year, he just said, you constantly are like saying the same thing over and over. And at that point, I felt like my business was a little bit stuck. I was plateaued at 40 units a year. I knew exactly what I needed to do to move myself forward, but I would talk about it and just never take action. For me, the lead domino is to get up in the morning and work out. And so I knew that if I could just get up and work out and get on the pivot calls every morning, that would just put me in the right energy to keep moving things forward. And so on that call on December 22nd of 2022, Jordan was like, you talk about this all the time. What is stopping you from doing this? And I, having worked with him for a year, could be really honest. And I was like, I'm hungover and I feel like crap every morning. So, and not even like a massive hangover, just like didn't feel great. So, and I knew it was the nightly habits that were really standing in my way of me getting everything that I wanted.
So you decided to make a change. What I find interesting about that is that back then, I mean, you were the top individual agent, not just in your market center, but in the region. I mean, you were a very successful business, operating at a high level. And yet I feel like a lot of people do this, that we say we want to make some changes, but going from saying it to implementing it can be a gap. And, I coached with Jordan and you coached with Jordan. Jordan will just say it like it is.
Right.
Like, so are you going to do it or not do it? So how did you decide to do it? And once you did decide to do it, how did you do it?
I knew that this had been an issue and something that I had been wanting to change for a long time. So through Jordan's teachings, Craig Zuber has a class called Your 10-Year Letter. And I was also reading the book, Be Your Future Self Now at the time. So I had been writing these letters to myself and really starting to think about what does kind of like my future self want. And it's called the 10-year letter, but like for me, it's more like 5 years out. I had this vision of me being able to work from anywhere, to bike and hike every morning, to be this awesome aunt for my nephews and nieces, and to just like have an amazing life partner that I have not met yet, but like he and I are building something together and able to work from anywhere. And nowhere in those letters or that vision were like wine nights. It was all getting up in the morning, being out in nature, and just like building relationships and community. So that day I committed to Jordan that I would really commit to dry January. So I was like, I can't say that I'm going to do this forever. Like, I still don't say that. I just said, okay, yes, I will truly like commit to this for 30 days and see what happens. And so I pretty much read every like quit lit book that I could get my hands on, because I really wanted to find the stories of women in particular whose lives were changed for the better. Like, I wanted to see examples of how much better my life could be without this thing that was like such a big part of my life. If you had asked me like what my hobbies were in December of 2022, I would have been like drinking wine with friends. That's all I do. So it was really a big change.
It sounds like to me that once you got clarity about where you wanted to go and who you wanted to be, it became, I don't know, did it make it more clear for you that having a glass of wine was not part of that? Because it's, in other words, you were running towards something instead of running away from something. Was that the switch for you, Meg?
Yeah, I think that I created this vision of what I wanted and knew that this was the one thing that I really needed to do in order to get all of that.
How does one create that vision? I mean, I know that, look, you're a growth-minded person. I've known you for many years. You're in every group there is that's going to be about a growth mindset and learning to get better. You listen to every podcast. You have completed Spotify. I just want that documented. Like, you've listened to everything. You read every book. And, I'm joking, but I mean, you send me, I'm in the business of knowing this stuff, and I get more stuff sent from you than I send to you. So you're really into it. But if for someone that doesn't know where to start and they do want to create what their future self looks like, which is a very Ben Hardy concept. You can read a lot of his books and get it. But what are some tips you'd give them?
So I think figuring out like what is the basic goal, whether it's to get in shape or to stop drinking or, get to 50 units or 100 units, like figure out just sort of like the general direction, and then find someone who I consider to be like my North Star. This is what I do when I set any goal now. I find someone who's just a few steps ahead of me. So when it came to not drinking, I had met a friend, someone who's now a friend, about 6 months prior. My friend Emma, she's a lender and she does events just like I do. She belongs to the same gym. Our gym has 3 bars. Like, I live in a big city. There's Whole Foods was my favorite wine bar. So there's alcohol everywhere. And she was doing all of the same things that or still does all the same things I do, and kind of making it look effortless. She just, if someone asked if she wanted to drink, she just said, no, I don't drink. She would have a Heineken Zero or, club soda with lime, and it wasn't a big deal. And so I needed to see, I picked this direction that I wanted to go, and then I found a North Star who was already doing it. And I just kind of like studied everything that she was doing. And also, on Instagram and in the Quit Lit books that I was reading, I was kind of like taking tips and tricks and models and systems from all of those people.
It seems to have worked. And this is where you told me about this system you use called Direct to help you figure this out. I think it's really smart. We're going to put this all together for our Inspire members on like a little one sheet so you can download it. But will you walk through that? Because I thought it was really smart, and you've given us the top half of it, but walk through that system.
So it's decide on the goal or the focus, identify who's your North Star. So with alcohol, it was my friend Emma. With lifting weights, I follow someone who's the editor-in-chief of Women's Health magazine, and she did triathlons just like me and started doing kettlebells. So I found the program that she was doing. So D is decide, I is identify, the North Star. R is research. So what are their models, systems, and habits? So with this editor-in-chief of Women's Health magazine, I looked at what like programs is she's doing. She was using this online app called Ladder. So I joined that. What skills do they have that I need to develop? Who are their coaches? What are they reading? What are the model, systems, and habits that they've adopted, and how can I adapt those for myself? So another, like, E is edit, and this one's really important. So it's deciding like what's the habit or practice that's standing in my way from achieving this goal. So maybe it's, alcohol, or maybe I stopped drinking Diet Coke on January 1st of this year. And for edit, it's just what can I swap that thing for? So if I want to give up Diet Coke, I'm not just going to stop like drinking like carbonated drinks. I have to have something that's kind of like easy to swap in. Ben Hardy says nature abhors a vacuum. And to me, that means like if you leave a bunch of empty space, something bad is going to fill it. So when I stopped drinking, I signed up for a half Ironman, and that took up all of the extra time that I had spent either like watching TV or sleeping in. And I needed something that was a structure to fill that time. So the next part is chunk it down. What's the smallest first step? So maybe it's finding that North Star. Like, what's the first thing that you can do to keep moving closer to that goal? So it's signing up for the app, identifying the app. Like, what's just as James says, what's the next right step? And then finally, it's tracking. So accountability is really important. When I stopped drinking, I was using an app called Reframe for the first 2 or 3 months. I no longer like count days or anything like that, but the app it really gamified not drinking, and it gives you little like tips on what's happening to your body every day that you aren't having alcohol. So, for going alcohol free, it's just tracking days. That's super easy to track. For working out, it's just how many days did I do something for 20 minutes? So pick like the smallest thing that's going to get you to your goal that you can keep track of.
It's really great. We'll put that together on a one sheet, and our Inspire members can download that. I'm curious about what's happened for you since then. 2 years without alcohol, a year without Diet Coke. You've switched to chai lattes. We're going to work on that, but that's all right.
I'm That's the next thing to go is the sugar.
I'm messing with you. It's all good. But I'm just curious about what's happened for you in that time. It seems like it's a difficult thing to do, but yet we seem to be in a time in our world that it's easier than it's maybe ever been. So I'm curious about, just because there's so many NA options out there for people, that I'm just curious about how's your world changed since you've made this decision?
It really is a movement, and the stigma, I think, is gone. I
Yeah.
get more people saying, like, wow, like, I really wish I could do that. That's by far the biggest comment that I get.
Yeah, but you can,
Um,
right? I mean, isn't that the thing? I mean,
exactly.
you and I have legitimately had this conversation. While you had a Heineken Zero and I had a real one, but we were literally talking about this. Like, I mean, you can.
Yeah,
It's just a decision first, right?
it's a decision first, and it's, I think, putting the plan in place. Like, what's the swap gonna be? I have made a plan for every interaction or outing that I go to. Like, I still, if I'm going to dinner with friends, I'll look up the menu ahead of time just to see what the like zero proof options are, so that I just know before I even sit down to order, what am I going to order? Or if I've gone to a couple weddings this summer, and I just get tired really. I wake up early, so I go to bed early, and I just give myself permission to leave at 9:30 after dessert. So I think it's really just, um, like, you can do it, and you just have to kind of like make a plan for all of those situations where it's going to be really hard.
Would you say your life is better now?
My life is 100 times better. Someone asked recently, like, "Is it hard for you to go to happy hours or all these events with alcohol?" And I have zero desire to ever go back. I'm never gonna say this is forever,
Right.
but why would I go back to the way things were when I feel better? I'm taking action on things that I've wanted to do for years. I think just by doing this one thing, like, my confidence in being able to kind of keep promises to myself has grown so much. And I feel like, because I can kind of show up for myself, I can bring on a team. And that's kind of why I've been able to start a team and grow my business this year, when, it's been a really hard year in real estate,
Yeah.
is I can keep promises better to myself.
I want to bring someone into our conversation because I know she's very passionate about it, and I'm sure she's loved listening to you. And yet, there's so many people in KW that might, be looking for some support. And so that's our friend Shelley. How you doing, Shelley?
Hey, James, thanks for having me, and congrats on your journey, Meg.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's an inspiring story. I'm sure it makes you feel amazing. Will you, just real quick, will you also introduce yourself to everyone? And I have you on because, in addition to being a really successful agent, you also lead this community inside of KW for people who are making the same decision like Meg is. So tell us who you are.
Absolutely. Well, I'm Shelley. I have been with Keller for 7 years. For about 3.5 of those years, I have been sober. And about 4 months into my sober journey, I decided there was a need for a community within Keller Williams for people like me. I had a lot of temptation, around events, and I just felt really alone. And I discovered that there were just a lot more people like me in this space. So it's been a really wonderful journey.
And she's a great social follow, FYI. So if you find her on social, she's fantastic. When you, Shelley, when you hear a story like Meg's, Just what do you hear and what runs through your mind when you hear what she shared?
I was tearing up here listening because I identify with so much of it. That feeling of being stuck. The definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And I know, at least for me, that was my journey. It was, a constant cycle of drinking. I could not moderate. And I'm just a lot happier now. In our community, we even find that, a lot of the people in our community are just really successful. And so many of them attribute that to this decision.
So what would your advice be, especially to those that, we've got different levels of people when it comes to this. You've got some that are part of this community because they know they've got an issue. You've got others that are just saying, I don't really think I have an issue, but it's just, I want to give this piece of it up. So what would your advice be to that person that's like, yeah, I want to cut back or eliminate it? What would you tell them?
Well, so first, our community, it is made up of a lot of people who identify as alcoholics or addicts. It's also made up of people who have never picked up a drink or don't drink for health reasons or don't drink because somebody in their family doesn't drink. So it's open for all. So I would say the best advice, first involve another person. There's a saying, you're only as sick as your secrets. And I think once you involve another person, you have accountability. You've made that, that thought that's lingering known, and you have someone that's going to help you get there. And we try to be that person for you at Clarity. Recovery is not easy. Even if you don't have a problem, quitting something is not easy, especially in this world that we live in, which is so alcohol heavy. But we try to make it easy by offering connections to resources, whether it be podcasts, meeting finders, even just being surrounded with people who are living their best lives. When you see someone with something that you want to do what they're doing, and that's what we offer.
If somebody wants to connect with KW Clarity, can you just tell us how to do that? And then I imagine you do stuff at Family Reunion and Mega Camp and stuff like that to help make those events easier. So how can they connect with you, and how can they see you at the KW events?
So we actually have a group on Facebook. That right now is our primary platform. It is a closed, confidential group, and we vet whoever comes in. We want to make sure that we are reserving and protecting this space for people who need us. Great point on Family Reunion and Mega Camp. Many agents and people in the KW world don't realize how many agents in recovery avoid these events like the plague. There's a lot of temptation, and they avoid career growth opportunities because of that. So we actually offer, our sober soiree. We have a group chat with all of the clean and sober attendees. We have daily meetings. We're very excited in Vegas. We are actually putting together our first recovery resort. It's going to be an Airbnb villa off of the Strip, just for our people. So be sure to look us up on Facebook. Get connected, and we are growing every day so that we could be of service to those in our community.
It's awesome. I love what you're doing. Meg, just your final thought for somebody who's sitting here going, all right, I think I want to make this decision. What would you tell them?
I love the resources that KW Clarity offers. I'm in the Facebook group. It's awesome. I would say just to figure out kind of the first step, what does operating at an 8 or 9 out of 10 look for you? So I wrote down this is what my kind of ideal morning or whatever looks like, that I'm never going to operate at a 10 out of 10, but this is what an 8 out of 10 would look like. And then just start with one of those things. Like, how can you start super small and track that?
That's really good. Shelley, you want to add anything?
Recovery is possible. And it's really beautiful. So I think on the outside, it's very scary. It turns out to be one of the best decisions that so many of us have made. So you can do it too.
It does seem like it might be easier in 2024 than maybe any time ever. I've got more NA beer in my fridge at home than actual beer. And we're like Peroni and Stella, stuff that I would like. It just seems so much easier today. Shelley, is that true?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And there are those who choose to recover quietly. I personally recover out loud. There is a whole movement of people that are making this decision, and they're doing so proudly. And Meg, as you put so beautifully, the stigma is not as strong as it used to be. And that's also what we're trying to do with Clarity, is make people comfortable and excited about this.
Well, I absolutely love it. I appreciate both of you being on here to share. And, there are so many benefits health-wise just to consider this. And thank you, ladies, for sharing with us as well. And everybody watching, you've got the resources. All the best. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.